Connecticut, known for its affluent coastal towns and picturesque countryside, has a dark side as well. The state has been home to some of the most notorious criminals in recent history who have committed heinous crimes that shocked the nation. From serial killers to armed robbers, these criminals have left an indelible mark on the state's criminal history. In this video, we will be exploring the top 10 most notorious criminals from Connecticut, delving into their crimes, trials, and the impact they had on society. So buckle up and get ready to explore the dark side of Connecticut's criminal history. But before we get started, please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified about our amazing upcoming informative videos. Now sit back, relax, and let's go. At number 10 we have Michael Ross. Michael Ross was an American serial killer who committed the rapes and murders of 8 young women in Connecticut and New York between 1981 and 1984. He was arrested in 1984 and later convicted of 6 of the 8 murders in 1987. Ross was sentenced to death and spent over 20 years on death row before his execution by lethal injection in 2005, becoming the first person to be executed in Connecticut in 45 years. During his time in prison, Ross became known for his advocacy of the death penalty and his willingness to be executed for his crimes. His case remains one of the most notorious and controversial in modern American criminal history. Number 9. Peter Manfredonia. Peter Manfredonia is an American serial killer and alleged spree killer who was active in the state of Connecticut in May 2020. He was accused of killing 2 individuals and critically injuring another, as well as kidnapping another, during a multi-state crime spree that began in Connecticut and ended in Maryland. Manfredonia was considered armed and dangerous by authorities and was eventually captured by police in Maryland after a 6-day manhunt. He has been charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and assault and is currently awaiting trial. The case received widespread media attention and was considered one of the most high-profile crimes in Connecticut in recent years. Number 8. Omar Thornton. Omar Thornton was an American truck driver who killed 8 people and injured 2 others in a mass shooting that took place at a beer distributorship in Manchester, Connecticut on August 3, 2010. Thornton was a driver for the distributorship and was reportedly upset about allegations of theft and racial harassment on the job. After the shooting, Thornton fled the scene and eventually engaged in a standoff with police, during which he was killed. The shooting was considered one of the worst in Connecticut's history and sparked a nationwide discussion about workplace violence and gun control. In the aftermath of the shooting, many called for increased background checks and other measures to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Number 7. Russell Peeler Jr. Russell Peeler Jr. is a notorious American criminal who was convicted of ordering the murder of Karen Clark and her 8-year-old son Leroy B.J. Brown in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1999. The murders were reportedly ordered in retaliation for Clark's cooperation with police in a case against Peeler's brother, who was accused of killing Clark's other son. Peeler was arrested and convicted of the murders, as well as several other crimes, and was sentenced to multiple terms of life in prison. He has been described as one of the most dangerous criminals in Connecticut's history and remains in prison to this day. Number 6. Joshua Kamasarjevski. Joshua Kamasarjevski is a former American criminal who was convicted in 2011 of the brutal home invasion and murder of Jennifer Hopditty and her 2 daughters, Haley and Michaela, in Cheshire. The crime was considered one of the most shocking in Connecticut's recent history and sparked a nationwide discussion about violence and safety. Kamasarjevski was arrested and charged along with co-defendant Stephen Hayes, who was also convicted in the case. The case received widespread media attention and was the subject of several books and documentaries. At number 5 we have Stephen Hayes. Stephen Hayes is a former American criminal who was convicted in 2010 of the brutal home invasion and murder of Jennifer Hopditty and her 2 daughters, Haley and Michaela, in Cheshire. The crime was considered one of the most shocking in Connecticut's recent history and sparked a nationwide discussion about violence and safety. Hayes was sentenced to death for his crimes and was executed by the state of Connecticut in 2012, making him the first person to be put to death in Connecticut in over 50 years. The case received widespread media attention and was the subject of several books and documentaries. Number 4. Alex Kelly. Alex Kelly is a former American criminal who was convicted in 1997 of raping 2 teenagers in Darien, Connecticut in the late 1980s. Kelly was a well-known high school athlete at the time of the crimes and became a fugitive after being released on bail. He was eventually captured in Switzerland and extradited back to the United States, where he was tried and convicted. Kelly was sentenced to 16 years in prison for the crimes and was released on parole in 2007. He remains one of the most notorious criminals in Connecticut's recent history, and his case received widespread media attention. Number 3. William Devin Howell. William Devin Howell is an American serial killer who was convicted in 2016 of killing 7 people in Connecticut between 2003 and 2015. The victims were all drug users and sex workers, and their bodies were found in a wooded area in New Britain, Connecticut. Howell was arrested in 2015 and later confessed to the crimes. He was sentenced to multiple terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole and remains in prison to this day. The case was considered one of the largest and most complex investigations in Connecticut's history, and Howell is considered one of the state's most notorious serial killers. Number 2. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein is an American former film producer and convicted sex offender. More than 80 women made allegations of sexual harassment and/or rape against Weinstein by October 31st. The allegations sparked the #MeToo social media campaign and subsequent sexual abuse allegations against many powerful men around the world. Weinstein was arrested and charged with rape in New York in May 2018 and was found guilty of 2 of 5 felonies in February 2020. His earliest possible release date is November 9, 2039, when he will be 87 years old. On July 20, 2021, he was extradited to Los Angeles to face further charges at a subsequent trial, where he was found guilty of 3 of 7 charges on December 19, 2022. At number 1, we have Christopher Demaio. Christopher Demaio is an American criminal who was convicted of a series of armed robberies and home invasions in New Jersey and Connecticut in the early 2000s. He was part of a notorious criminal gang known as the Demaio crime family that committed a series of high-profile crimes and was known for its brutal violence. Demaio was arrested in 2005 and later convicted of multiple charges, including racketeering, extortion, and robbery. He was sentenced to multiple terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole and remains in prison to this day. The case was widely reported by the media and remains one of the most infamous criminal cases in recent New Jersey and Connecticut history. And there you have it, the top 10 notorious criminals from Connecticut. These individuals have left a lasting impact on the state's criminal history and serve as a reminder of the violence and destruction that one individual can cause. While we may never understand why they chose to commit such heinous crimes, it is important to acknowledge their impact and to work towards preventing similar crimes from happening in the future. We hope you found this video educational and informative, and if you have any feedback or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.